This podcast is part of the StartCast network, bringing you Europe's most promising startups. For more information, go to startcast.eu.
Welcome to StartCast. Today I'm talking to the founder of Small Improvement, a company that provides performance reviews for small to medium-sized companies and promises to increase productivity and communication by making it as easy as possible for employees to give feedback. Let's go to my interview with Per. Alright, we're talking to Per. He's the founder of Small Improvements. If I can give it about a sentence of description, it's basically a performance review system.
That's right. It's well, I would even call it a bit wider. It's a feedback system. So it's for getting feedback, and the feedback could be from your boss, and that would be a performance review, but it could also be a 360, so where you get feedback from your peers, or if you're a manager, from your team. Or you could be tracking notes about your one-on-ones and get feedback about those. You can track your goals and objectives and get feedback about those. So I would call it more like a internal feedback system.
What is 360? What does that mean?
Oh, sorry. 360 means basically you can say, I want feedback from my 7 coworkers, John and Jill and Judy and blah. And then your manager maybe says, well, that's a good selection, except one is your best friend, so I'll remove him from those, but I'll add 2 others. And then you get feedback, for instance, anonymously from your 7 or 8 coworkers. And so it's a bit more democratic than just getting feedback from your boss.
Uh-huh.
And for instance, as a manager, you might get feedback from the people you manage. And of course, your boss would be interested in looking at that if you're a manager. So it's more democratic than just getting feedback from your boss, because your boss might be remote, or he might not be in the office very often, or busy with other stuff. And 360 ensures that you get feedback from the people who you work with the most.
So the concept is prior to Small Improvements. It was already existing.
Yes. The whole thing of getting feedback, and obviously we don't want to replace face-to-face feedback. You still need that, like on a day-to-day basis. But the concept of doing regular check-ins, say every quarter, is not new. But the difference, I would say, is that we try to, now with cheap cloud computing and everyone has computers everywhere, it makes it much easier to do this in smaller chunks and more frequently. So it used to be done traditionally maybe once a year, and you'd have a huge form and you'd do it for a week. And we say that's stupid, because once a year it's not often enough. So we say, well, let's do it maybe every quarter in smaller chunks, and in between you get feedback for your objectives. Making this whole thing more continuous, that's definitely something that is new in the last couple of years, because it was just not feasible before. And our approach here is to make it even more lightweight, so that it's actually fun to do it.
So I'm wondering, because I'm personally in the IT branch, obviously, and this thing is a lot easier if somebody says, okay, the component that you just developed, or whatever you just designed, or the UI that you just given us, here's the feedback for this project, here's the feedback for that. Do you see other branches being able to implement this relatively easy? And if so, which branches are they?
Well, we do have a very strong following in the tech scene. And indeed, sometimes it feels like, well, we should do this when a project is over and not, say, once a quarter, because, well, the quarter doesn't maybe relate to my project. So it is one of these components that we will build at some point. First, we want to just focus on the core product, but the ability for a manager to say, okay, my team has now finished this project and I want to do my review now, is something that we will be adding. It's possible already you don't have to do it exactly on the first day of a quarter, right? You can say the engineering team does this in the middle of December, because that's when they cool down and, go into bug fixing mode, while the sales team does it in mid-Feb, because that's after the trade show. So there's some flexibility in the system already, and we will make it more flexible in the longer run. But of course, you have to start somewhere, and we decided, okay, we'll first focus on the HR people who set up the thing for their company. And then the next step will be to give managers the ability to do it when a project finishes. But we have this component anyway that you can give feedback anytime you like. right? We have this lightweight messaging system in there as well. So you don't have to wait until you're asked to give feedback. You can give feedback anytime.
And this, once again, are we talking about solely IT branch or?
Oh, no. It's for no. Sorry, it's for everyone. It's basically, I think, every company that has more than 50 people should use a tool like ours. And of course, we have lots of companies in the IT industry because they are the early adopters, right? We have lots and lots of Silicon Valley companies using the product, not because it's only useful for IT, but because these are the people who try new stuff the first. But we are already getting more and more traction in more traditional companies as well. So we have some law firms who are using it, and construction companies and retailers as well.
If we're already talking about some of your clients, could you talk about the biggest clients and how do you handle such size?
Yes. So what sets us apart from many of our competitors is that we're going after the mass market. So we're really targeting small to medium-sized companies. We're not targeting the large ones. And especially as a startup, I mean, when we started this whole thing, it was just me and 2 students working on it. We were not able to deal with companies, say, with 1,000 employees at all. Mm-hmm. And even today, it's a stretch. So our largest client currently has 1,000 employees. And we're talking to some who have, say, 1,500 people. But the majority of our clients are in the range of 50 to 500 staff. And that's manageable, right? That's not impossible. You still have to make sure that the product is really good so that you don't get many questions. Yeah, if the product is not good and you get new customer 500 people and everyone asks one question, then you're doomed. But if you make the product so self-explanatory and so user-friendly that they don't have questions, then you're good. Mm-hmm. And so some of our clients are, for instance, Atlassian, a software company with now 500 people, Pinterest, this social networking system that's very popular in the US, not so popular here yet, but
I've used it and heard of it. It's common.
Yeah, well, yeah. So they're our client, and
they must be a big client, aren't they? Or maybe they're a lean team. I'm not sure.
I think they're a couple of hundred people.
Okay.
So it's not a tiny startup, but it's not like 10,000 employees either.
Yeah, that's true. It's not Google.
It's not Google, no. So we get inquiries sometimes from larger customers, so larger companies, and then we just say, well, sorry, no, it doesn't scale to your size, right? We're focusing on small to medium size, and if you're 5,000 people, then, well, it would be tempting because that's a lot of money if you charge per user per month, but
too much overhead.
Yeah, exactly. So you suddenly have to build features that specifically for your large clients, and that's maybe something that your smaller clients don't benefit from. So we're really focusing on the small to medium size, and we're continually growing the customer base and the user base. But we don't want IBM or Cisco as a client. It's just doesn't make sense for us. We'd rather have hundreds and hundreds of smaller clients.
And could you talk a little bit about who the gatekeepers are? So who are the people, what the positions are of the people that you contact first in order to get your system implemented?
Well, usually we don't contact anyone. They contact us. Well, it's software as a service, and we're spending a lot of energy on making the product really, really user-friendly and easy to use. So if someone finds us, they usually like us. Well, I mean, if they buy, not everyone buys, but those who buy, they usually like us, and then they start telling their peers in their social networks. And then, then this new person signs up for a trial, and then they maybe request a demo, and they join our webinar, and they have a question or two, and then we get their user data, we set them up, they have another 3 questions, then they use the product, and that's it. And in terms of who we talk to there, it's usually in a smaller team. Like if it's a company with 50 people, it's often the CEO who somehow maybe read about us somewhere on Twitter or Facebook or whatever their friends are posting, or in some news articles that were mentioned. At larger companies, it's usually the HR person. So it's often the HR director who reads about us or hears about us. Then they tell the HR intern, hey, check this out. There's this new product. Can you give it a try? and then we do a demo with them, and then the second demo is maybe with the HR person, and then maybe the third demo is sometimes with the CEO, sometimes not, depends.
So they invite you to demonstrate the product.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So if it's a small client, we tell them, well, just look at the webinar. So we have 2 webinars a week, live webinars, so they can ask questions there as well. But larger clients, say 100 people or so, we try to talk to them face to face. Well, I mean, over Skype. But
face to virtual face. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And just wondering, are these very often local clients from Berlin, or are we talking about?
No. We're talking about US most of the time. So we have maybe, I would guess that 80% of our clients are in the US, and maybe 10% Australia, and then 10% rest of the world. It's an interesting distribution, I would say, because for a Berlin startup to have almost only US and generally overseas clients is probably unique.
But I think it's a task management thing. Like in my experience, the first adapters for Jira, for instance, or Redmine were definitely US based.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're ahead of us in terms of technology usage a bit. They're less shy, and they have lots of early adopters. But also in general, this whole thing of giving feedback inside a company is a lot more common in the US. It's not as common here, simply.
I've had a couple of conversations to understand also that even if there is something new that you can implement to the entire company, it's the process is a lot faster in the US.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they try more things. Sometimes they then, after they tried something, they decide, oh, it's not for us, and they stop it again. So I think they experiment more. And in Europe, it's probably more you think harder about things up front. And if you do them maybe in a more structured and well-planned way. But probably also try less, which can also be a problem.
Yeah, it's an advantage and disadvantage. It's a way to look at risks, I guess.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, we do see some clients now in Europe. We do have, 3 or 4 German customers, and then another, 10 European customers. So we do see some traction, but not a lot yet. So it's a lot more in the US. But I guess it's also clustering. I mean, for instance, we had one client in Iceland, which is, very small country. And, half a year later, we had 4 clients in Iceland. It's this
word of mouth.
It's word of mouth, exactly. So if you have 10 clients in the US, say in Silicon Valley, then the next year you have 100 clients there because they all talk to each other. So, of course, we're hoping that the clients we get in Europe also talk to their friends. But, we'll know next year, I guess. Call me next year.
We'll set something up. Can you talk a little bit about your team? So how many people are you?
Sure.
What does everyone do?
Sure. So we're now 12 people. So 1 year ago, exactly, we were 5, and now we're 12. So it's definitely growing. And we are 8 people in Berlin. So there's basically 5 full-time developers, 1 student developer, myself, and office manager. And then we have 4 people international. So here we have 1 person each in Sydney, in Australia, in Toronto, New York, and San Francisco. So they're the customer success team. They deal with clients, they do demos, they visit clients, and give us feedback from clients. So if 10 clients ask for the same feature, they will tell us. So it's kind of our mouth and ears.
Yeah, they're the man on the ground.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's a challenge because we're covering lots of time zones with our clients, but then again, we're also covering lots of time zones with our people. And it's not easy, but we're using lots of tools, so we're quite good on communication. So we're using Confluence a lot, and Jira, and Trello, and Skype, and HipChat, and whatnot. So yes, we try to keep in touch a lot with the team because it is very distributed.
And that's a necessary question. Do you also use small improvements?
Yes. So we use it for note-taking and for getting feedback to some extent. We're not using it as much as our clients because we're just so small. That's a stretch. I mean, as I said, the tool is really starting to become really useful for companies that are, say, at least 30 people. Because before then, you are talking to everyone all the time. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not as useful for a really small company. But basically, the background story is I was running a team of 20 people back in Australia. And that's where we were using feedback systems a lot. And that's kind of, I guess, critical mass for using it a lot. I mean, there are use cases for small clients, and we are using some features, but you have to have certain critical mass until it becomes really useful. And so that's where, I mean, yeah, our usage of small improvements will grow as the company grows. It's just like that.
Yeah, that's interesting that you found some sort of curve as to exactly at which state does the company really use the product.
It's the same with Confluence. I mean, I was running the Confluence team. I love it as a product, but we did not use Confluence for the first 2 years of our company because, if everyone's in the same room, then using Confluence isn't like, I mean, for your reader, for the listeners, Confluence is like a social intranet wiki, which is perfect for discussing ideas and taking notes and writing documentation and blogging internally and so on. It's perfect, right? I love it. But we didn't use it for the first 2 years, although we had a free license, because, well, if you're just 3 people, what's the point? Now we use it a lot, right? You have to have critical mass for certain tools, and small improvements is no different.
Yeah, that's the reason why many companies that start small and then start to expand lack some like wiki documentation. This is the exact time to start doing it.
Exactly. You have to start it when you're small, but you can't start it when you're just one person. I think that's too early.
You talked just a little bit about gamification aspects to your product, and I've already seen on your website that people get badges and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about how it works, and can you sort of measure the impact that it has on your clients?
One thing we're really bad at is measuring things. I mean, we're good at looking at our financial charts, but we're not very good yet at tracking how people are using the system in real time, stuff like that. So I can't, even if I knew, I don't know. It's very hard. We just don't. I mean, there's so many things we're working on, and internal tracking is just always low priority. But in terms of gamification, so I think lightweight gamification is fine. I don't believe that gamification only makes sense. So in our case, you can award badges to people, but we're mainly building it to make the whole giving feedback more fun, right? We don't use it then as a way to have a leaderboard and who got how many badges and you can be the king of badges. We don't do that. So we're not like Foursquare or anything.
That would be silly and people would just refresh their profile.
Yes, but there are products that do that. I don't believe in it, but I do believe in making a product fun to use, and badges is like just a fun way. You don't have to use them, but if you tell someone, hey, great job, and you can pick a little badge, I think that's fun. I mean, we do it all the time, right? If we write feedback for each another, then we use badges. But it's not like you then go to someone's profile page and count their badges. That doesn't make sense. And I think that's probably also the only gamification feature we have. And I think that's enough. Other than that, I think we're trying to make the product itself so smooth to use that you just like using it, right? I mean, for the end user, it's very bare bones. You just go in, there's your task, give feedback to XYZ or nominate who you want feedback from, and you're done. For the administrator, there's more features, and that's where we put a lot of effort to make those features really nice to use. But then we don't need additional gamification for that. So, I mean, yes to lightweight gamification, but no to basing a product only on gamification. I think that doesn't work in the enterprise market.
Because the badges were on the front page, I imagine that people might take it to the next step and started, doing tasks for the experience points or whatnot to level up.
No, we don't have that. I mean, yes, it's on the front page because I think it's a nice extension to the general messaging system to be able to have badges and so on. But we sometimes get requests from evaluators saying, hey, can we extend the badges? Can we have, a leaderboard? And can we do formulas like this many badges means that much bonus? And we say, no, that's rubbish, right? Then people start gaming the system, right? That's something you shouldn't do. You shouldn't do calculations based on who's at the top and who has how many badges and stuff.
Not to mention you lose focus.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Then people start doing things just to get badges. I think that's stupid. For us, it's really just a nice way to enhance things. And, if you're writing that message anyway, why not make it a bit prettier?
It's a small token.
Exactly.
Could you talk a little bit about the beginning? So if
Yes.
we're talking about funding, registration, those kind of small things that right now look small, but they're very big for people coming and wanting to start their own thing.
Yes. So the background story was really, as I mentioned, I was running a team. We were doing lots of feedback because the company said, let's do feedback often. And I loved that. I loved getting feedback from my from my coworkers, like other managers, or from my team, the people I managed. I loved that process, but the tools we were using back then were really, really bad. So I really hated the tool that we used back then, and everyone else hated it too. So when I went home from Australia back to Germany, I thought, well, why don't I just try building something better, something that I would have liked to use? Because that's a good motivator, right? Building something that you like, you know how it should work, and there's a good chance that other people in your position might use it too. So I think that's a good way to start. Of course, it's no guarantee, but it's something. And I thought, well,
No, it's the user number 0, basically.
yeah, exactly. And well, if you already know that other people hated that tool too, you have someone who you can pitch to. But I saw it as an experiment. So I thought, well, I haven't been coding for a long time, and I want to get back to coding a bit. So why don't I just do this for 3 months and see what happens? And then after 3 months, I thought, well, this is fun. I'd still enjoy it. Let's do it for another 3 months and then pitch it to some companies, for instance, to my old employer. And then there was a beauty contest, and they looked at several tools, and then they picked us, and tons of work ahead. But after then another half year, we had a product that was actually good enough for other customers to use as well. And yeah, well, then we did some SEO, and we got some inquiries and a few customers. And only when I mean, it sounds easy now, but it was a lot of hard work, and there was no guarantee. Even Atlassian using it was no guarantee for success. So there was still no money coming in. So we made the first sale, I think, pretty much 1 year after I started. And on one hand, that was great, but on the other hand, that was $3,000, that was enough to pay the student for 1 month, right? So I mean, my bank account was pretty much zero then.
But you were bootstrapping, or did you get?
I was bootstrapping, yeah. So I had saved some money. So I think we started roughly with $50,000 in the bank account, which is on one hand a lot, right? It's a lot of savings there.
Like for Berlin, yeah, one could say that.
But if you think, yes, you have to pay for yourself, even if you don't spend much, you still have to pay for your rent and for lunch and dinner and whatnot. And yeah, we had 2 students who helped us. They were very good, but they also wanted some money, obviously. And so the money did go quite close to zero when we got our first sales in. I mean, I could have borrowed money from my sister, for instance, to some extent. And of course, you could consider doing a loan and maybe talk to investors early. But, well, we tried to do without, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's interesting.
And it keeps you very, very focused. I mean, this whole thing about looking at your bank account, and it's less every month, makes you focus. It does make you focus. If you have too much money in the beginning, you're not very focused, I think, which can be a problem later on. So the first 3 months, in hindsight, I did way too much things that were not needed. But, well, after 3 months and looking at the bank account, you start thinking, okay, let's focus.
No, it's. I think it's really depending on the character. I think for you it helped, and I can understand how it really gives you focus. But like many people, because they got their funding, they said, yeah, when I was seeing that my bank account was getting lower, or that I'm stressed for the cash flow, then I wasn't focused. So it really, I think it works in different ways for many people.
True. Okay, that's true. No, I mean, you're right. It can also defocus you if you then suddenly start saying yes to everything just to get clients. That's true.
Just have to be strong.
Yes, to some extent you have to be strong, and you have to know what you want to build. You have to have some kind of vision. It can change. I mean, the product changed a lot from the first vision. So, but yeah, I think to some extent, because I knew what I wanted to build, and I did understand why customers wanted some additional features, I think that has helped. Because yeah, I mean, we were not building something that had never been done before, right? So there was the risk of getting totally defocused was not so big, fortunately for us.
So obviously, it's quite difficult seeing that you have to get to your first sale and the bank account is closing on zero. Could you talk a little bit about the really biggest lessons that you've learned, especially if we're talking about bootstrapping on your own, getting that first client, sort of like really the things that you wish you would have heard when you started all this?
Well, if I had heard more, I would not have started, I guess. I mean, if I had known how much work it is, then I might not have started at all.
Too late.
Yes, exactly. No, I'm lucky. I mean, I think one mistake I made was not enough market research. We were lucky. It did work out. If I had done much more market research, I might have just given up because there was so much competition. I didn't know that how much competition there would be. So it did work out, but it was still a mistake because I didn't look at the market enough in the beginning. So we were lucky there. Other things that are important, well, I mean, I think one thing we did really well was getting feedback all the time, like asking for feedback and asking people, hey, what can we improve on? So that was one of our strengths. What else did I not know? I think setting up a company was easier than I expected.
So you mean?
So I would probably have done it.
You mean just registering it or what?
Registering a GmbH, a limited, is actually easier than I thought. I was always putting that off because I thought, oh God, it's going to be so hard and everything. It was not. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if it would have changed a lot. But we really pushed off until we finally got the first client and they wanted to give us money. But we should probably have done it, I don't know, half a year earlier just to be on the safe side. Because we did have, trial clients and you never know. I mean, a GmbH can save you from some hassle, of course, if something goes very, very wrong.
Yeah, no, that's true. Liability.
Financially. Exactly. So that was... It kind of all worked out, but if I would do it again, I would definitely do that earlier. And I think I wasted too much time on thinking about business plans. I mean, you have to think about your business and how you will get customers and how much money you can make from them. But somehow I was always thinking I have to write a 10-page business plan just to be a proper company, and that was stupid in hindsight.
So more action, less writing.
Yes. It didn't kill us, of course, but I could have saved a lot of energy there and just focused on the product. And I sometimes talk to people who do even more work on that. I'm thinking, well, just build a product. Don't think too much.
Yeah, something minimal, like a minimal viable product. Yeah.
Exactly.
Could you talk a little bit about, especially for people coming to Berlin? Let's say somebody wants to, as you mentioned, either register a company or basically get a startup going. What would you recommend the first couple of steps that they should take?
I think one of the huge advantages of Berlin is that rents are not as expensive compared to other cities. So I think one of the nice things is that it enables you to get nicer office space than you think you can afford. So I think if you want to build a startup, you will at some point have to hire people, and it's very hard to hire good people. But if you have a nice office, even if it's small, that's definitely going to help you a lot. So you have to be cheap, you have to be not spending too much money, but if you spend a little extra in Berlin, you can get quite nice offices. I think that's one of the things to consider, because if you then want to hire people and they come to your office and think, whoa, that's ugly here, I hate it, they're not going to sign up with you as your first employees.
Not to mention prospective clients.
Well, exactly. If you have, okay, that's different. I mean, I guess everyone understands if a client comes that it should look nice, but many people, I think, fail to see that also the office should be nice for your hiring efforts. So I think that, there's lots of startup events and so on. You can go to them all, but I think, I don't know. I've been to quite a few, but usually, I don't know. The ones that are useful are the tech meetups. I think where you talk about technology to other tech people. Like if you're doing Java, go to the Java user group. If you're doing AngularJS, go to the AngularJS meetup. That's great. But all these startup events, I think they're overvalued or overrated.
I think everything in good time. So
exactly,
as long as you don't go like 3 times a week, you can get some benefit.
Exactly. If you go there every, I don't know, once a month or so, that's fine.
Just to keep tabs.
Yeah. I think the huge advantage of Berlin is that you can find good talent in Berlin and you don't have to spend a fortune. But in terms of information, learning about how to do a startup, what's the MVP and all that stuff, you can use the internet as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to go and talk to other founders just to learn how to set up a company or what tools should I use. I mean, that's easier on the internet. So I think Berlin is perfect for setting up a company. Do it, but don't get lost in all the meetings you could have, because it's going to take time. The one thing you don't have is time. You have to work on your product. Say if you're a developer, or if you have to hire a developer, whatever, you have to spend a lot of effort on your product. You don't have time for anything else. You don't have time to meet your friends very often. You don't have much time for your girlfriend or boyfriend. You have to spend a lot of time on the product. And then if you go out 3 days a week to meet other founders, well, you lose focus. So that's the danger of Berlin.
Yeah, to stay focused because the leisure options are aplenty.
Yeah. Or the glamour, right? You go there and there's all these other cool people and they have founded this and that, and it feels like, wow, this is it, but it's not. What you have to do is the boring hard work at home or in the office. And that's a danger in Berlin. It's very easy to feel part of something, but you're not, because as long as you don't have something, if you haven't built it, you're not part of it. You're just a bystander.
It reminds me sometimes of rooting for a football team, thinking you're a part of the team.
Exactly, you're not. You're yeah.
You're watching them. It's nice.
Yeah, it's fun, but it doesn't improve your own soccer skills.
You're not. Yeah, you're not more fit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think on this great note, it would be definitely a good time to finish the interview.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you have anything else that you want to add, and tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and how they can find more information.
If you have a very specific question, if you need help with something, just send me an email. I mean, you'll find us on our company page. If there's anything you'd really like to know, like how should I do X, just send me a mail or a direct message on Twitter.
So what's your handle on Twitter?
Small Improvements or Small Improve. So that's our company account. So you can just send us there. Or on email, it's Per, at small-improvements.com. But you'll find me on the website as well. So
All right.
Yeah, so if you have any specific questions like how should I do X, happy to listen to the question and answer it. Anything else? Back to work.
Thank you for listening to StartCast. We are currently gathering as many interviews as possible with the most inspiring and interesting startups around the world. If you have a startup or you know anyone that has his own startup, feel free to contact us at contact@startcast.eu. And you can contact me at Asaf, that's ASAF, at startcast.eu.